Welcome to my show simply entitled Women Influencers, where you will find inspirational stories of successful women in business. I am Veronica Malolas, CCIM, founder and CEO of the Capstrata Group of companies, providing commercial real estate development, brokerage, and property management services in the greater Orlando area. Today's guest is keynote speaker, author, and founder of the Unapologetic Community of Women, Cassy Williamson. What a passionate and joyful conversation we had. Please don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe below. I welcome your comments and please share with someone who can benefit from this podcast. Hi, Cassy. How are you today?
Hi, Veronica. I am good. How are you doing?
Thank you for being here today. I really do appreciate it. And I can't wait to hear your story. So tell us about how you grew up in your environment and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, to make a very, very long and twisty, turny story short, I grew up as a military kid. My sister and I really were fortunate enough to be a part of something that did at that time feel bigger than ourselves. I've always been a special kind of unicorn in terms of having my own energy, beating to my own drum, liking to do things a little bit differently, and being what a lot of people at that time would call bossy. But I think that's where my leadership started to take an early shape, which now I see in my 4 year old, and I laugh. But for me, it always was about how to show up and serve people around us. And I think that just came from having an upbringing that was rooted in service.
Thank you for your family service and of course
Oh,
for the military. I mean, yeah, we can't thank you your family enough. So great. And just wanted to ask you, how old were you when you started to kind of realize that you've got leadership kind of naturally?
yeah. I think it depends on who you ask. If you were asking my dad, he would reference like 4 year old me bossing kids at the playground and the park. For me, though, I think it felt more like middle school. So where the book starts for me, my book Unapologetic kicks off in sixth grade because I really do feel like that is where the road split in terms of this identity that I was walking into of being different and feeling pulled more towards leadership, but also recognizing I wasn't like everyone else. And as a kid, that shapes you in good and bad ways. But it's why I share that part of my story because when you're in middle school and even in high school, different doesn't always mean good. And for a long time, I definitely didn't have a place where I feel like I felt fit in. And I think that that is really challenging as a kid when you want to belong and you want to have a space and you want to have friends. And so, my sister and I in high school actually started working with the National Guard. My journey started in music. And so we worked in the music industry, serving military kids and families for a long time. We toured speaking and singing with the National Guard to be advocates for this community and this population that we felt like needed a voice. And so that was a huge pillar of how I was shaped because when you're 14 and 15 and 16 and you're going through these different scenarios where people have really been through hardship, like real life has happened, it impacts the way that you approach everything else. And so we did that for several years. And then I realized, okay, now I have to like be a grown up and pay the bills and make money. And this dream of being a famous singer that I think a lot of preteens, teenagers had was not going to be the forever. I got my master's degree in speech therapy, which led me into pediatric healthcare. And I did that for several years, really right up until the pandemic. And then I was offered an opportunity to go into online sales and design for a home builder that was local to me. So I went from the music industry to healthcare to the new home sales space, which led me most recently to the national level where I was doing sales and leadership training for builders across the country. And it was during all of those different aspects of my life that the same thing kept reappearing for me. And it was this idea of, gosh, I'm not quite like everybody else. And some people were fully supportive of that and embraced it. And then other people wanted me to compromise or fit whatever it was at that time, whether it was the role or the personality or the way that I engaged with the people that we served. But it all came back to this core belief for me, and it's a core value, and that is I want to make a difference. I want to serve the people that I find myself around. And I think that I was able to do that through music and then through healthcare with my speech therapy kiddos, and then in the new home sales space. And it really led me then to what I'm getting to do now, which is do the sales training, but also launch my own brand and business through what has become this now unapologetic movement. But all of those things have been heavily shaped and grounded by the things that I went through growing up. And that's why the book doesn't start, last year. It starts in middle school, where really all of this began.
No, absolutely. And we are shaped by our own personal history for sure.
Yeah.
And you talk about a lot of teenagers wanting to be famous singers. Well, nowadays they all want to be TikTok influencers.
That's right.
All that. Well, just amazing. So, did you remain in the home builder industry, or did you kind of move away from that and started your unapologetic? Tell us about that.
Yeah, so right now it's really cool. There was a really big moment that essentially launched this unapologetic movement, and it was a couple of summers ago. I had started writing the book as counseling homework. I was working through some of the things that I had been through as a kid and navigating how those things were influencing me as a mom. And I was expecting my second daughter at that time, and I hopped on a call with leadership, and it was one of those moments where I thought I was going into a space that was going to be positive. Like we had all these great things leading up to it, and I was looking forward to the conversation. And then I got on the call and quickly realized, oh, I'm in trouble. This was one of those moments. Something's wrong, something's off. And in that conversation with leadership, I was, approached about the way that I was presenting myself. And ultimately, this leader told me that I wasn't going to be taken seriously by the C suite or executive leadership,
Right.
and I wasn't going to be able to accomplish the big dreams that I had for my life if I didn't tone it down. And he went
Ah,
on to share that I needed to stop with the Cassie hands and the hugging and the arm pats and the things that make me wonderfully me. He was telling me I needed to stop. And I got off that call, and I was emotional, and then I was mad, and then I was like, okay, this has to change. We can't keep doing this. And so I wrote the chapter called No, You Tone It Down. And I decided that this was no longer just about me. This message had to be finished, and I had to move forward. And so I ultimately left that organization and was given a fantastic opportunity to serve where I sit now, which is in two spaces. I am a strategic performance coach at Impact 88. So we train builders all across the country, while also launching my own branded business through the unapologetic movement, the unapologetic women. And I'm fortunate enough to be surrounded by leadership who believes that both things can be good and true at the same time. We can hold hands without stepping on each other's toes. And so they fully embrace this unapologetic movement and see the goodness that's happening. And so I'm getting to do both things right now, which is a lot of fun and fills my cup up a lot.
well, that's amazing. But let me ask you, so that person or that leader, if we can even call him a leader, was it a group of male leaders that was more of the selection committee or something like that? I mean, tell me a little bit about kind of the background as to why you think that there are still leaders out there that actually talk about that stuff. I mean, that's so like, I don't know, so dated.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting because I definitely agree that it can feel that way, but unfortunately, it's a reality for so many individuals sitting in organizations that operate out of habit, not strategy, and operate out of a dated mindset. And this idea that we have to be something, so uptight or wound in a way that fits whatever corporate vision we have in our mind to be effective or to be impactful or to do a good job is archaic, because I argue the opposite through my eager leadership loop framework that I teach now. It is that when we empower people in their authenticity and their unique abilities to do the things that make them so wonderfully them, we actually see so much more goodness flow from that. Then when we have these conversations where we're trying to put someone in a box or telling them to tone down what's good about them, people will leave. People won't stay. We're not in a situation anymore where people are going to just sit and take it. And that for me is the whole point of unapologetic, is to remind people that to own our impact, we have to own our voice. We have to own our authenticity. And yes, there are parameters around that. I'm not, and I put this in the book, I'm not saying stick it to the man. That is not what I am saying at all. There are good rules for a reason, and things that we have to follow to maintain professionalism. But at the same time, I had a national sales leader tell me, and I will never forget this. She said, watching you has made me realize that the corporate avatar we have created in leadership, this picture of what we think has to be effective, is so dated and wrong. You prove and you're in your unapologetic space that you can be an effective, respected, impactful leader without compromising, love and care and kindness for your team. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
for me, that was the win. I'm like, if we can start to help one leader at a time see that their impact is not compromised by their humanity, by showing up as a person, that is the win.
Yeah, and I actually am in the commercial real estate and development industry. So I know for a fact that, for instance, the construction industry is so male dominated. And I say that not to diminish,
Mhm.
but to say there's a lot of opportunity for women like you, for instance, to make an impact. So
Yeah.
thank you. And I'm so glad that you actually moved away and still remained in the industry
Yeah.
with leadership development. I think that's pretty amazing stuff.
Um,
So let me ask you, if there was a challenge that comes to mind that you overcame that you are proud of, what would that be?
mhm. I think for me, the challenge has always been going with what's uncomfortable and unknown rather than what is clearly the easier path. And that's really been how I feel like every big life transition has panned out. But one of the biggest challenges I ever faced was the spring that I was launching the book, which just happens to be last spring, a year from now. There was a moment that happened where the book and my family were being threatened in terms of, what would happen if we put this message out, and what would happen if we move forward the launch of the book. And I had this moment where I almost said, forget it, it is not worth it, we're not going to put it out there. I wrote it, I did it, I can say I wrote a book, it's done, and we can move on. And I had this, what I call in the book, God wink moment, where I had not gone to church in 2.5 years. And I shared in the book, like, for me, faith has always been really present in my life, but it's not been dictated by a specific place or person, or, one set religion. But I had my sister in law, and she was like, please come to church with me. I think you'll really enjoy this church. And she's like, come on, come on. And so I went, and it was that weekend that the whole message that day was about how our calling will disrupt our comfort, and
Hmm.
that we were not put here to sit idly on the boat and just ride the boat, but that we were actually put here to fulfill the purpose that God put on our life, whether it fit neatly in a box or didn't. And I mean, my sister in law at the time was all but like bruising my rib cage, elbowing me, knowing what was going on. And so I walked out of that service and I was like, okay, fine. My calling is definitely disrupting my comfort. This book is totally rocking the book, but I'm going to do it and I'm going to move forward. And for me, the whole thing was, if this book could help one person recognize that they are not alone and that they are perfect just the way they are, and that for them to truly make a difference in the world, they had to show up unapologetically themselves, then it was the win. And I have got to see it do that, not just one time, but many times. And it is probably one of the greatest gifts I've ever been able to receive, but also uh, totally worth all of the discomfort that came from every moment leading up to it. And then a lot of moments after. And that for me has always been the challenge, is recognizing that sometimes the good that we're supposed to be doing is going to feel really, really uncomfortable before all that goodness happens.
Well, isn't God just so good?
So
I mean,
good.
he is
All the time.
amazing. Yes. And I'm so glad that you even though in that environment or that space, right, the easy way would be to conform, you did not,
Mhm.
because you were up for the challenge. So thank you for sharing that. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Let's talk about influence.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you have this unapologetic community that was influenced or still being influenced by you and your book. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I have shared on many occasions that Unapologetic Women was not born out of a plan. It was really born out of what I kept seeing as a necessity. When I launched the book last summer, it pre-released, and so people were getting copies before the published date, which was something that I did not know would happen or plan for. It's like letting someone see your baby before you felt ready. It was that sort of feeling. And I had women reaching out to me asking me for coaching or asking me for calls to support them because they resonated with something in the book.
Mm.
And I do a lot of business coaching and private coaching, and I support women who are, in transition, looking for help taking that next step. But coaching is not always accessible to everyone, and
Yeah.
that's just the fact. And the space that I found myself in was a lot of the training that was being provided or offered was either title specific, so offered only to leadership, or at a price point that people just couldn't afford. And we're sitting in an industry, I mean, you're in commercial real estate, I come from home building, where companies are just not throwing money out the door. Like things are
Oh,
getting tighter and tighter. And so I had this moment where I'm like, what can we do to support the women that are looking for growth and community and connection that allows them to show up in that space unapologetically then and then grow together. And so Unapologetic Women was born, and it's this idea that for me, the only two qualifiers to get into the community are love and kindness. And when you come in, there is clear commitments and we hold everyone true to those. But it's not about your title or your industry or what you've done or what you haven't done or what you've accomplished. It's about this acknowledgement that we are all just works in progress. No one actually has it figured out. But when we commit to growing together and being consistent and showing up and doing the work, good things happen. And that is this community. We are 2 months old officially as of March 14th, which is so cool. But we have over 140 women now from all over the country, all different industries, titles, walks of life. And it is the coolest thing I have ever witnessed to see the magic that is happening in this community. And just being able to facilitate these calls and watch these women pour into each other while then teaching my unapologetic transformation sequence and getting to coach them in real time. It's one of those things where you wake up and you're like, do I really get to do this today? Like it is the coolest thing. And being able to serve these women so that they can go and serve the people around them. Because one thing I know to be true of women, especially those who've got, life happening outside of work, which we all do, right? Is we will sacrifice ourselves every time. We will
yeah.
put other people before ourselves every single time. And one of the things that I always say, and I probably say 5 times a day, is we have to put on our own oxygen mask first. We can't pour from an empty cup and we cannot show up and serve the way that we're supposed to if we're not intentional about the things that we do to grow ourselves. And so being able to do that in this space when we're all too busy for it is really, really cool because life is always going to be busy and there's always going to be a reason not to show up. But we do, and we hold each other accountable to that. And it's amazing because the community is not about anything I'm doing. It's about what these women are doing for each other.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it seems like your community just grew organically just
Yes.
from this connection and this relational connection. And I absolutely love that.
Yes.
So, Cassie, tell us if there was one piece of advice that you could give to our audience today, what would that be?
I think for me, it's always about doing the thing before you actually feel ready, taking action before you feel like it's a good time or you're qualified or it lines up with everything else happening in your life. Because one thing about me, and good or bad, is I just do it. I just do. I'm a doer. And I don't think too long about it because I just believe with everything that I have, things will work out exactly as they're supposed to. And God's got a bigger plan. And as much as we think we are in control, we're really not.
Yeah.
And so don't wait because we're not guaranteed tomorrow. And so do the thing before you actually feel ready to do it because it may not be there waiting for you tomorrow, and you don't want to go with any regrets. You have to live fully. And again, I know I shared this earlier, but I think for us to own our impact on this world and to make a difference and do what we're supposed to do, we have to be willing to own our voice and show up in that, because it's not going to just happen. We have to do something to make it happen.
And I read somewhere in your LinkedIn that you also like to talk about courage because
Yes,
the truth is to step boldly into something new takes a lot of courage.
it does.
Great advice. I thank you for that great advice.
Yeah.
So I think we've come to the portion of our interview where you get to ask me a question.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think it's amazing that you're bringing women into this space and you're having these conversations because everyone comes with a story, right? I always say that we are all going through something that most people know nothing about. And so in these conversations that you've had, and gosh, I mean, you're over 100 episodes, which is such a wonderful milestone and achievement. What for you makes you keep having these conversations? Because podcasts are a lot of work and
Yeah.
it takes a lot of time. It is a labor of love. And so, what brings you back to wanting to have more of these conversations every week?
Well, yeah, and that's a great question, Cassie, because oftentimes I get asked as to why I do a podcast.
Mhm.
But what you're asking is why do I keep doing the podcast?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you my second value is curiosity.
Mm.
And I love that I get to hear your story, Cassie, and the passion in your voice, just like I do every one of the ladies that I've interviewed on this program. And I've interviewed men as well. As a matter of fact, I have another gentleman that I have on schedule. And it's really so exciting and amazing to learn about someone's journey and I think about the impact that someone like you, for instance, and every one of the 100 plus ladies that I've interviewed, the kind of impact, and you mentioned this earlier, even to just one person. And
Mhm.
I think that's what keeps me going. And to be honest with you, I enjoy these conversations so much. And I get to do it and I get to put it out in the world. And you just never know who you're going to touch and
Yes.
influence. And so, yeah, so that would be the answer to your question. I just love learning about women and the kind of impact that they have on others and building community and building relationships and learning about courage and the different forms that it takes to be able to get someone from this side of the line to the other side of the line. I think that's really important for me. So thank you
Yeah.
for that question. Hey Cassie, thank you so much for being here today. And if anyone in our audience wants to connect with you and wants to buy your book or be a part of your community, how do they do that?
Yeah, so you can find me on all socials, LinkedIn. It's Cassy, like sassy, so Y, not IE, Williamson. I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn, CassyWilliamson.com is where everything is linked out and lives. The book is wherever books are sold. There is an Audible that is my voice, which I laugh at. So if you want to sit and listen to me for several hours through the book, you can do it that way. But the biggest thing I always share on the podcast I'm on is if you're sitting here and you are feeling in that space of being alone. I am not a faraway person that is so out of reach. I am a person just like you are a person. And so reach out, send a DM, send an email because you are never as alone as you feel. And you are so very loved. And so for me, that is what it's all about is to reach the one who maybe doesn't feel like they have that one in their corner. That is why unapologetic women exist. That is what I feel like our mission is to empower those who do feel alone in the season that they find themselves in.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much, Cassie, for being here
Yeah.
today. And
It was
I look forward to your episode being dropped and hopefully we get to connect again.
yes, thank you so much. I've so enjoyed our conversation and all that you do. I appreciate you.
Thank you.